Good morning. I'm Jana Lewis. I'm an assistant principal here, and I have the distinct privilege of introducing you to our featured speaker, Mr. Nathaniel Lampley, Jr., Esquire. Prior to doing that, I think we should give Tanisha another round of applause. It is so difficult. I think we all understand how difficult it is just as adults to stand up here in front of our peers, but as a student, nice job, Tanisha. Very nice job. Without further ado, Mr. Nathaniel Lampley, Jr., Esquire. He is a native of Hamilton, Ohio, graduated from Hamilton High School in 1981 in the top 1% of his class with a 3.95 grade point average. He received an academic scholarship from the University of Dayton, where he graduated with honors in 1985. He earned additional money for college working as a laborer at the Beckett Paper Company when he was on summer breaks. He received a full scholarship from the University of Cincinnati College of Law, from which he graduated with honors in 1988. While in law school, Mr. Lampley worked as a legal intern at the Butler County Prosecutor's Office. He currently serves as the managing partner of the Cincinnati office of Voorhees, Sater, Seymour & Pease, LLP, a full-service law firm with nearly 400 lawyers and offices in 7 U.S. cities. Mr. Lampley's practice includes complex litigation, employment litigation, commercial litigation, and wrongful death litigation. He has experience handling class actions, dissenting shareholder suits, products liability, and mass tort cases. He also developed a sports law practice, having negotiated over 80 contracts with NFL teams. Among his civic activities and community service, Mr. Lampley has served on the boards of the Cincinnati Black Ambassadors, the Black Lawyers Association of Cincinnati, the Christ Hospital Sports Medicine Institute, Downtown Cincinnati Incorporation, Volunteer Lawyers for the Poor, the University of Cincinnati College of Law Board of Visitors, and the University of Cincinnati Alumni Association. He has participated in Leadership Cincinnati, the Cincinnati Academy of Leadership for Lawyers, CALL, and the United Way Volunteers Leaders Development Program. He also delivered the commencement address at Millett Hall for Hamilton High School's graduating classes of 2002 and 2013. Mr. Lampley has been honored in the Cincinnati Business Courier's 40 Under 40, Who's Who in Black Cincinnati, and has been recognized as an Ohio super lawyer in employment litigation every year since 2004. He is the son of Nathaniel Lampley Sr. and the late Marina Lampley. He has been married to Paula Davis Lampley since 1992. They have 2 children, Nathaniel III, Trey, a freshman at Washington University in St. Louis, and Hunter, a junior at St. Xavier High School. Please welcome with me Mr. Nathaniel Lampley, Jr.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wilhelm, members of the board, visitors, friends, students, parents. I can't begin to express the profound pleasure it is to be here and to be invited back home. A lot of great things have happened to me and for me since I've graduated from Hamilton High School in 1981. I can remember one of my first cases as a lawyer. I was asked to represent a young man who was charged with shoplifting at a grocery store. He was going to plead guilty. We were in court and I stood with him. The judge went right at him. He said, "Mr. Smith," who was the defendant, "what did you steal?" Mr. Smith said, "A can of peaches." The judge said, "Well, why did you steal them?" Mr. Smith said, "Because I was hungry and I didn't have any money." The judge said, "How many peaches were in that can?" Mr. Smith said, 6. So the judge said, "I'm inclined to sentence you to 1 day in jail for every peach that was in that can." 1 day for every peach. Before he could drop the gavel, Mr. Smith's wife, who was in the courtroom with us, stood up and said, Your Honor, may I be heard? I am the defendant's wife." The judge said, "Sure, please speak." the woman stood up and said, "He also stole a can of peas." It was the last pro bono criminal case that I've ever handled. But I understand the importance of days like today. I really do. And I'm privileged to be a part of it. I've been asked to visit with you on the topic, "Oh, the places you'll go." And I don't know who selected that topic, but you could not have picked a better topic for me. That book by Dr. Seuss resonates with me on so many levels. I believe it was the last book he published in 1990. My first son was born in 1995, in December of 1995. By January of 1996, my wife had purchased the entire series of Dr. Seuss books, from Cat in the Hat to One Fish, Two Fish to Yertle the Turtle. We had everything. The wonderful thing about Dr. Seuss, and the great thing about his books, is that he managed to capture, and the books exemplified, the dignity of simplicity. "Oh, the places you'll go" was no exception, and the message was simple. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you get to decide the places you'll go. I hope that the students at Hamilton High School understand the simple message in that book. And the message is clear. You determine who you will be. You determine the places that you will go. And when Dr. Seuss talks about the places that you'll go, I don't believe he's talking about places like Florida, where you can visit with Wiz Khalifa. I don't believe that those are the places that he's talking about. And the question often arises, how do we get to these places? How do we get there? We decide to go somewhere. How do we get there? By plane, by train, by automobile? I don't believe those are the kinds of vehicles that Dr. Seuss is referring to. But I honestly believe that every student in this room and every person in this room has the tools and the vehicles to get to these great places. The best way for me to explain that to you, why I really believe that, is to give you an example of something that happened to me when I was a young student in the Hamilton City School District. For 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, I attended Roosevelt Junior High School, home of the mighty Mustangs. Every time I drive by that building that used to house Roosevelt on 12th Street, I get chills. I get chills when I think about how much I learned, how great the teachers were, and how much that school and the experiences that I had are a part of who I am today in shaping my outlook on life. We had great teachers. We also had great administrators. There was a room called the Mod Room. The Mod Room was staffed by 3 gentlemen known as the Mod Squad, after the 70s series of the same name. It was Mr. Brown, Mr. Churchman, and Mr. Birch, I believe. But of all of my memories of Roosevelt, the one that is most remarkable to me took place when I was in 8th grade, my 8th grade English class, my homeroom, taught by Mrs. Roseanne Post, who I believe is here today. Mrs. Post would decorate her classroom with pictures, with posters, with poems and sayings and quips and quotes. And the one picture that was remarkable to me was a picture of a turtle. Underneath the picture of that turtle was the following simple caption: "A turtle only moves by sticking out his neck." A turtle only moves by sticking out his neck. The parable to anyone who looks at that poster would urge you to reach out beyond your comfort zone, challenge yourself, and try new things. If you read that poster, I think that's what you were supposed to get. And when I was in the 8th grade, I was determined to do just that. How would I do it? The school newspaper at Roosevelt Junior High School was Teddy News. Theodore Roosevelt Junior High School, Teddy News. I thought that was a brilliant name. I still do. I was a big sports fan. I was determined to be the sports editor, and I saw Dirk Allen, who used to be the sports editor of the Journal News. I was determined to be the sports editor of the Teddy News. The problem is, I had never drafted or presented any article of any kind for any newspaper, not to mention never contributing to the Teddy News. The faculty advisor for the Teddy News, the publisher, the editor-in-chief, was none other than Mrs. Roseanne Post. So I decided to meet with Mrs. Post and ask if I could be the sports editor of the Teddy News. I met with Mrs. Post and I said, I'd like to be the sports editor. I think I'd be good at it. Mrs. Post was not smiling. And she looked at me, and I think she was looking at me over her glasses, and she said, Mr. Lampley, you have never submitted an article for the Teddy News. Why is it that you think you deserve to be sports editor? I wanted to be respectful, and I chose my words carefully. And I said, Mrs. Post, I didn't say I deserved it. I said, I think I'd like to do it, and I think I'd be good at it. Mrs. Post sent me away. But she called me back into her office a couple days later, and she said to me, I've thought about this, and even though you've never submitted an article, I'm going to allow you to serve as the sports editor because you're reaching out. So in the 9th grade, I was the sports editor for the Teddy News, and I did everything I could. I had feature articles, I had previews, I had reviews, I had interviews with coaches and players. At the end of the year at Roosevelt Junior High School, we had a big ceremony for the graduating 9th graders. The 9th graders were going off to high school. We had a big auditorium in Roosevelt, and all the students and faculty and everybody was there. During that assembly, Mrs. Post called me up to the stage, and she put her arm around me, and she said to me, and she said to the entire school, that was my world. Roosevelt was my world at that time. She said, I have never given an award to any sports editor of this paper. But not only is Nate Lampley the best sports editor of the Journal of the Teddy News, he is the best editor of any kind in the history of the Teddy News. Imagine the impact on a 9th grader when you infuse that kind of confidence in him. I would like for Mrs. Roseanne Post to stand and be recognized. You may ask, what does any of this have to do with the places that you'll go? I think it has something to do with it because when I was in the 8th grade or 9th grade, I had an epiphany. Now, I don't know that that was ever a vocabulary word that I saw on the board in the 8th or 9th grade. I don't know that I knew what an epiphany was when I was in the 8th or 9th grade, but I'm convinced that I had one. I think I realized or recognized, or I woke up and said to myself, maybe if I reach out beyond my comfort zone and try some new things and take some risks and challenge myself, then I increase the scope of potential greatness that I might experience. Take some risk. And I'm not talking about risks that involve bungee jumping or drag racing or doing drugs or anything like that. I'm talking about challenging yourself to be the best that you can be, even if you're not comfortable doing it in the beginning. And I can tell you, when I was in the 8th or 9th grade, I never dreamt that I would be the person that I am today. I never dreamt that I would be the managing partner of a large office of a national corporate law firm. I don't even think I had the capacity to dream that big. But here is what I want to say to each of the students here today, and everyone else for that matter. You don't know. I don't believe any student who's 17 or 18 years old knows the capacity of what you are capable of doing and the greatness that is within your reach. There is nothing that you can't do, and I don't even know that you can understand what that really means. But here is what I urge you to do. I urge you to think about your Teddy News sports editor moment. I want you to think about a situation where you doubted yourself and you weren't sure, and other people weren't sure and they doubted you. But you were given an opportunity and you made the most of it. And you exceeded not only your expectations, but the expectations of others. And I want you to harvest that and bottle it up and draw up on it and use it to catapult you to do great things. And you say, what great things are you talking about? And that's the beauty of this, because you're on your own and you know what you know, and you decide the places you'll go. I'm humbled and I'm gratified to be here. I thank you for inviting me back. God bless you all.